A year ago, I published a video where I show the steps that I followed to hack the specification EEPROM on my Hunter C111 aligner. A very complicated process in which I use the same aligner to convert the decimal values into hexadecimal values. Such values appear as extended ASCII characters on the memory stack. When I tried to convert such values using the Windows calculator on its programming function, I could only enter a whole number, but not a fraction or tenth or hundredth, etc. So for example, to enter 1.0, I knew that its hex equivalent was 03E8. As you can see, 1 on the calculator gives you 1, obviously. However, I discovered that entering 1000 instead, then I got the correct result, as you can see. Right there, I realized that there was nothing special about the way the C111 processed data. All I had to do is multiply such decimals by 1000 and get the corresponding hex value. Nevertheless, it's kind of difficult to be doing the conversion this way. With Visual Studio, I made a decimal to hex converter using C# Windows Forms and a simple code to achieve the task. Allow me to open Visual Studio and open the file. As you can see, I customized the form to list the values on this list view window. I place labels at the top with all the necessary parameters, although the labels do not perfectly align to the data. Well, maybe version 1.2. Anyway, the labels at the end represent the hex values which control the default units used on the vehicle. As you can see, there's a group box with the radio buttons. The last label represents the type of alignment, caster visible or rear axle visible, also represented in this group box with the checkboxes. This label called decimal shows the number entered on this text box, in which you can only enter numbers, the dot and the backspace. These three buttons are the convert, the clear button, and the exit application button. If you take a look at the code, first thing, if you press enter or convert on a blank text box, a message box will pop out to remind you and return to the beginning until you do so. When this condition is met, then it jumps to the next method, which reads the text. Since the text enter is a string, we call a method convert to double and assign it to the variable called DEC. Double is a number with a decimal point, also known as floating point. Since I want to show this number and label DEC, I have to convert it back to a string and show it on the label. The same double DEC gets multiplied by 1000 and assigned to 1000 as double to be able to convert it to base 16, and I had to cast it as an integer, then convert it to a string and assign it to a variable called base. Then it gets positioned on the list box as hex values. I'm pretty sure there's a simpler way to do this. The following conditionals are for the different radio buttons and the checkboxes, just to show the characters selected accordingly. However, the checkboxes, at least one of them should be checked, or a message box will pop out. The next instruction is to clear the text box when the convert button is clicked. This method on the button clear erases the items on the list view window. The button exit will exit the application, and the last part will handle the exception when characters other than numbers, backspace, negative sign, dot, and also won't allow it to enter the dot more than once. Okay, allow me to close Visual Studio. Let's open the executable. Above the list view, there is a row of labels with the alignment parameters. Of the last three labels, the first one is fixed. This parameter is automatically called on the aligner itself. It indicates a toe value based on a wheel diameter according to the selected units. The second label indicates the default toe units, and the last one indicates if either the caster or rear specs are displayed on the screen. In other words, sometimes a vehicle manufacturer does not include such information, so the aligner will display empty spaces or dots on the screen. The rest is pretty straightforward. You enter the numbers on the text box and get the hex values on the list view. So this is it, a decimal to hex converter to hack the Hunter C111 spec EEPROM. Hope you like it.